Goedenamiddag, bonjour, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started with this webinar on ESA Business Applications and particularly on the competitive call for last mile delivery. My name is Anne-Catherine Bien, and together with my team, Diego, Vincenzo, and Amal, we are promoting ESA Business Applications funding opportunities in Belgium. Diego, do you want to go to the
Absolutely.
No, to the full screen view.
It didn't. Sorry, it somehow did not.
In the meanwhile, just as a reminder, we are recording the webinar, so you're aware. We will also be placing this online afterwards. If you have any questions during the presentation or afterwards, please put them in the Q&A and we can address them hopefully all during this call. If we can't address them today, then we are happy to have another call with you separately or send out the information afterwards via email.
I do apologize.
No worries.
Okay.
Just maybe quickly before Diego will dive deeper into the use cases. So what we will be talking about today is the last mile delivery kickstart activity, which is a specific call about developing services related to last mile delivery applications using space-enabled data and services. It's a feasibility study, a technical feasibility study to develop a service ID and a system architecture, but also, as always, within business applications to understand the economic viability of the service and the development of a business plan. And in particular, today, of course, we're focusing on how this can help SMEs in Belgium, and when it is or what it is that you need to do for it. But first, what we'll do is start a little bit with showing you what can be what you can do with you have to switch the display setting. What you can do with last mile delivery or with space data for last mile delivery. Yes, thank you. Okay, I'll give the floor to you, Diego.
All right. Thanks a lot, Anne-Catherine, for the introduction. So last mile delivery is obviously a very interesting subject, and space has a lot to offer for the last mile delivery applications. But let's first dive a bit deeper into what last mile delivery is, and most importantly, what the important factors are of last mile delivery. So the last mile delivery is obviously from the last warehouse to the end consumer, and where we want to have a very efficient process. And the main factors in last mile delivery are obviously first and foremost costs. Very important, not only to consumers, but also to companies implementing last mile delivery. The technology, which can be a very great benefactor for last mile delivery. Innovation there is what this call is all about, as a matter of fact. And then a third aspect is volume, where the higher the volume, the more the impacts of the more efficiency and the technologies can be felt for companies implementing these changes. And the operations obviously must be scaled to accommodate the demand coming from the end consumer. And finally, a term that has been used already a bit is the efficiency. Last mile delivery systems can either be a very great opportunity for companies, but can also become very big bottlenecks as well, if the efficiency is not put in place as it is supposed to. So in a nutshell, well, delivery services have become so important in today's society. Very importantly, the last mile delivery. People like to order something and get it at home without moving from their house. It's a convenience. And when executed well, this can be very much a solidifying factor to a delivery system. But in case it's less operated less optimally, it can really become a big viability and decrease the customer satisfaction. So that being said, that's a very quick introduction of what we see in last mile delivery as being relevant factors. Obviously, let me quickly note that this is not limiting the scope of the call specifically. We're always open to new ideas, maybe a factor that you think is highly relevant in your organization and you would like to focus on. Please do not hesitate to bring up the idea when you write your proposal, but more on the process later on. So in terms of use cases, can you still see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's something popped up. In terms of use cases, can you quickly let me know if
You're seeing the agenda slide.
Okay, perfect. So in terms of use cases for the last mile delivery, what we have identified thus far, and it again does not limit to the ideas that you might have, but this is the ones that we have come up with. And we would be very happy to hear what you make of this. But we categorize them in three main pillars in last mile delivery. One is the logistics facilities, so the warehouses and all the logistics and operational aspects that surround it. After that, we have the delivery methods. So obviously, currently what is very common is well, cars and trucks. And then lastly, we have the delivery routes that can be highly affected by space technologies. We'll deep dive a bit in each pillar now and extend a bit on what space technologies can do for all of these pillars. Obviously, again, these are not limiting the scope, but just showing some interesting examples for you. First and foremost, the logistics facilities. Logistics facilities are already very highly optimized centers of operations because they fit within a wider network of logistics in bigger companies and are usually highly automated. However, they can still be improved using space data, starting with the climate and Earth observation data from space. One of them could be the weather patterns around your warehouse, where you can identify whether the infrastructure is still in good condition, but also the surrounding infrastructure, like roads and constructions, whether they block your infrastructure, the reach of your infrastructure, which may become a bottleneck to your operations. A specific example here could be for use cases in lesser developed regions, if I may say. For example, we have a company in Africa that is in contact with us, and they are developing up-to-date maps of roads that are operational for vaccine delivery and surrounding their facilities as well, to see if their facilities are reachable by people, and if not, what the detours are and what the potential best routing options could be for end consumer to get to the logistics facility. Another one is maybe I'll move to the geolocation. Geolocation, GPS, as some of you might know it, a more broader term is GNSS, where in logistics companies, a big paradigm shows up is internally, the goods are tracked quite easily, but then externally, they become a bit more of a problem. So setting up tracking possibility from inside to outside, those can be very much helped by GNSS. Another one is geofencing, knowing whether an asset such as a truck is arriving at a facility or leaving a facility can also help optimize the tracking of assets within the geofence. And then finally, we have the communications aspects in logistics, which is also super relevant for logistics companies that need to know on a day-to-day basis what their drivers are up to. And with this, we don't talk about really the last mile delivery, but the drivers maybe before the last mile delivery, so we can prepare the necessary operations for after, once the package has arrived at this sorting facility or this logistics facility. We can prepare the operations that follow that. And the last use case that we have thought of is keeping all the logistics facilities up to date to where packages may have arrived, or potentially in terms of inventory, where inventory is located, and to optimize the best sourcing of inventory in a certain region. Now, moving from logistics facilities to the delivery method, obviously we've just talked about trucks and the usual four-wheelers, but a big topic of discussion is drone technology nowadays. How can we potentially integrate flying delivery methods, air-based delivery methods, or autonomous delivery methods? Space is a huge asset to have on your side for these evolutions. I think on the right side here, we have the Uber Eats delivery, which is partnering with Nuro. This is a US example, but obviously would be very happy to see this coming to Europe as well. Autonomous delivery requires various aspects that are linked to space. One can be communications for more remote areas, but also geolocation. So where is our delivery vehicle? Maybe it's getting stuck somewhere. It might be good to know where it is. And so current methods tend to use cellular networks. So your 4G and 5G networks. But in more remote areas where the cellular network is less common, satellite communication may be a very good option to include in those vehicles, to make sure that, well, you're fully aware at all times where your fleet is and the potential problems that might arise there. And additionally, obviously, real-time updates for these vehicles is highly important. So that's for the ground-based ones. For flying or for air-based delivery methods, this is even more important because they fly in a very in an airspace that is shared with other vehicles, with a whole bunch of regulations, of course. But knowing where your asset is never as important, and is super important in air-based delivery methods. So GNSS or GPS geolocation here is absolutely relevant. Now, for communications aspects, and this has to do with real-time updates. If we understand from one of the assets in the fleet, for example, that there is a traffic jam or that there is a road blockage of some sorts at a certain place, we can update the whole fleet with this and then reroute those to avoid being stuck in the same traffic or blockage incident, whatever it may be. But it might be a good option to have this real-time updates continuously to the home base, where we can then reroute the remainder of the delivery vehicles. Now, that is for the delivery methods. Obviously, we just covered ground-based and air-based. More than happy to hear about other methods that you might have in mind. let your creativity loose, and yeah, always very curious to hear about new ideas. And finally, the third pillar that we have identified for last mile delivery is the routing aspect. Now, for climate and Earth observation data or space data, it's quite interesting to understand what the terrain is like. So in cities, it is usually a bit easier because we can go from the assumption that, well, there's asphalt between the logistics facility and the end consumer. However, and I'm taking the example back from the company we discussed with a couple of weeks back, in more remote areas or sometimes less developed areas, weather can have a major impact on the way roads can be used or not used. In this case, the company was working on medical or healthcare products, and being able to access certain roads was critical for human lives. So knowing what the best routing could be based on observing what roads can be used if there is a landslide and the road is no longer usable, they needed to find another routing possibility, and this is all enabled by spacecraft, all enabled by satellite data. Now, another one is obviously the precise navigation. Certainly, when we think about autonomous vehicles need to know on what side of the road they are, besides the visual systems that they have on board to determine this. The more precise the location, the better. And maybe something similar to Waze that you might be familiar with, the optimize the delivery routes, but dynamically based on the latest updates, live updates that we get from the fleet, that we get from external users. We can dynamically re-optimize the delivery routes. And then finally, the satellite communications aspect. Again, we come back to the communications all the time. We speak a lot of this real-time updates. They're very relevant in logistics because they allow a very optimal operation and efficient operation. And this is where we come back to the core values of last mile delivery. They allow for a very efficient delivery method. The more real time you get the information in, the faster you can make the decisions to change or not change the routing that you have and optimize the speed and the safety potentially of drivers or of assets. Now with that, I conclude the use cases. Of course, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, please do not be limited by the use cases that we have found. We're very curious to hear your ideas. But maybe to show you what the ESA Business Applications program has done with similar use cases in the past, we have a couple of success stories that passed through us. The first one is one that is currently in full development in the Port of Antwerp. It's the project Simplify, by ADLC. And what they do is they're developing autonomous drone flights for highly dangerous chemical products in the port to avoid, to make the transport faster and avoid having trucks having to go around the port all the time. They can just simply fly over the water when there is no ships crossing below them. It's a very interesting project. They're now waiting for their flight license from the FAA. But they have had a lot of good demonstrations already, and so we're very keen to see the final product working legally with the license. A second one that is super interesting as well, and here we go back to the healthcare sector, is Dragonfly. This is from a company called ESA, and what they have developed is a small container where the container sends live information of the contents of its contents. And what information is it sending back? It's the temperature and humidity. The container is made specifically to move certain healthcare products like vaccines that need a cooling chain that is continuous, a continuous cooling chain, sorry. If the cooling chain is interrupted and the product warms up, it may no longer be usable or no longer have its effects, or even be dangerous to human lives. So this is a highly critical container for the healthcare sector. Very interesting company, also finalizing their development at the moment. You should really look them up because it's a very cool product. And then finally, we have DocFlow that has successfully finished their product. It's Collie AI. And what they have done is they combine all sources of delivery methods, be it air transport, be it trucks, be it or road transport, maritime transport, whatever is the fastest and the cheapest. They combine everything in one platform and tell the customer, this is what is the fastest and most cost efficient for you based on weather data, based on location data, nearby facilities, etc. So they really combine all, like the geolocation, the geolocation space aspects, and then the satellite communications aspect very strongly to better understand where everything fits, to make it as cost efficient and time efficient for both the customer and the operator as possible. So this then concludes the success stories for the ESA business applications in the transport and logistics sector. These are some examples. We have way more. We'll invite you to have a look at them after, if you would like to. But I'll give the word back to Anne-Catherine for presenting the ESA Business Applications program. What is the program about? Why is it relevant for you? And what are the many opportunities you can get from it? Anne-Catherine, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Diego. Of course, the whole point of being here today is also to see how the specific competitive call on last mile delivery can benefit you. And for those that don't know yet, how ESA Business Applications funding can benefit you. So just to give a very broad overview for a moment, so the European Space Agency is funded by its member states, of which Belgium is one, and the budget that Belgium gives to ESA also returns to Belgium or to the Belgian space industry. The way that is done is that it's distributed through a variety of programs, of which one of them is ESA Artes. It was originally the telecommunications program. Right now, it's already bigger. And so within ESA Artes, we are promoting, and this whole call is about business applications. Business applications itself is very focused on finding commercially ready space-enabled applications, not just enabled by space or satellite communications or telecommunications, but also Earth observation, satellite navigation, human spaceflight technologies that could allow you to create a service that would benefit your customers. The more you can work together or use these different kinds of space assets to build something commercially viable, the better it fits within the business applications funding line. Could you go to the next slide, please? And so in particular, when we're talking about the end users of your applications, we're really talking about non-space end users. So today here we're talking about the transport and logistics sector and how space can benefit them. But there's also any kind of idea that you might have related to the use of space assets for aviation, for fintech, for agriculture, for education, tourism, smart cities, maritime, and many others. could be of interest to ESA Business Applications. And within the program, there's budget available depending on the size of the project that you have in mind. But Belgium through ESA Business Applications co-funds feasibility studies or and in particular demonstrator projects for up to €1 million. Going to the next slide. So what does that mean in general for you? There are two different types of calls. You have, for this webinar in particular, we're talking about a competitive call. The last mile delivery call is a competitive call. It's only open for a limited amount of time. The deadline for this call is already on the 21st of March. And it's focused on a specific thematic, last mile delivery in this case, whereby your proposal is weighed against proposals of other companies. This is one type of call. If in this webinar you see, okay, this might, or ESA Business Applications in general might be of interest to me, but I don't have time to finish something or by the 21st of March, or I just I want to figure out some more, like how can space benefit my service for last mile delivery or for transport and logistics or anything else. There's also an open call. These open calls are open all year long. They don't have a specific thematic. It can be about any thematic that I mentioned before. And you can propose your own idea for an application. There will be differences between the funding of a competitive versus an open call, but that depends a little bit on as well, going a little bit deeper into what is it that you're actually going to be proposing now? How big will the project be? Is it, how close is it to maturity, to commercial readiness? The smallest projects are Kickstart projects. Last Mile Delivery is a Kickstart project. It's really focused on startups, on SMEs who want to try out what space can do for them. And for doing a feasibility or learning what is needed to start a proper feasibility study. So it's only 6 months in duration, a project, if it gets awarded. And the total cost of a project can only be €75,000, of which €60,000 would be funded by ESA Business Applications. So the other 15K would be you would need to find co-funding for that. But it will quickly allow you to see to look into the technical feasibility of your idea and to look into how should I be setting up a business plan around this to ensure that you can move into a next step, which is a feasibility study that really looks into, okay, this service, who are the end users, who should I be working with, and how can I further commercialize this. They're a little bit longer, 6 to 9 months, and you get up to 50 to 75% of co-funding for those kind of projects. Demonstrator projects are the really big projects. They are the ones that if you have defined a technically feasible and economically viable service, and you want to go and test it in an operational environment with the end user, run a pilot for 12 to 24 months. That's where a demonstrator project comes in. The amount of co-funding usually goes down to 50%. Then it's really about making sure that you have this commercial service ready. But can you go to the next slide, please? So the call that we really want to promote here today to you is to let you know that for the moment, if you have an idea related to last mile delivery using space assets, and you want to test it out under a kickstart scheme, meaning smaller in scope, in duration, and with a maximum funding of 75,000 euros. Then you have the opportunity to bid now to create a proposal for this activity with a deadline on the 21st of March, so in about a month from now. And to give you a bit of an idea of the timeline on the next slide. So right now, if you say, okay, this is something that I really want to go for, then please do have a chat with us. So for any more questions that you might have, what we would also do is already start the process for a letter of support from Belspo. Belspo will always be involved in saying, yes, this is a project that we see has a clear value for the Belgian economy, and so there will be a meeting be set up with Belspo to explain your idea now already during the proposal phase, because the idea is that by the 21st of March, you submit your proposal as well as the letter of support from Belspo. Then the review of those proposals goes quite quick, and within 6 to 9 weeks, normally you already have an answer from ESA and would be able to start implementing your Kickstart project. Next slide, please. And so this is also potentially interesting to know. So not all countries are eligible for business applications, but if you say I have an idea and I want to work together with a partner in France or in Germany or in another country where business applications is supported, that is possible. It will make things a little bit more complicated, but it's completely feasible. You just need to make sure that the countries that you're working with are also part or funding ESA business applications. Okay, and then I think we're getting towards the end of the webinar. We would love to hear from you if you have any questions related to the presentation right now, or if you are interested in potentially bidding for the last mile delivery call. And so please don't hesitate to put your questions into the Q&A or raise your hand if you want us to unmute you and that you ask the question directly. So I'll just leave that out here for a minute or two. If any questions come up at a later time, of course, or if you want to just let it sink in a little bit, you can always reach us on this email address, or the phone number that's on the screen right now, and we'll also send out that information afterwards. But at the moment, I don't see anyone raising their hands. I don't see any. There's one question, which I will answer live. So, do you only provide funding? Do you provide only funding, or also support related to fine-tuning a concept based on your know-how? So what we do from our team, from ESA Business Applications, is we will help you with phrasing your idea or with the way the things that you need to include into a proposal for business applications. For ESA, all of those financial forms, the making sure that there's a good commercial view of the application that you're going to develop. What we can't do is if you say like, okay, yeah, I've got this idea, but I need to know exactly like technical specifications for ensuring that I can build a satellite communication gateway or something. That is something we can't do. However, with that in mind, what we could do is potentially introduce you to other Belgian players who could solve your problem, so that you might be able to build a consortium and bid together with them. So we're happy to discuss with you what it is that you need in terms of understanding better the administrative requirements for an ESA proposal, or if you want to dive deeper into your idea and see where there might be some things lacking and how we can further help you out. Are there any further questions at this moment? I don't think so. So I propose that we close the webinar here. I thank you very much for your participation today. We'll be sending out more information via email afterwards. And then I wish you a pleasant afternoon and a nice weekend. Thank you.
Yes, we look forward to hear from you. Thanks a lot.